Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, I'm here in Switzerland, and I have the honor of being able to tell you all about my experience with the new XSR900 and also tell you a bit about my experiences with the 2016 XSR900 since that is the bike I privately ride. So, anyways, let's get started right after the intro. So the XSR900 is, as you all know, a CP3 powered motorcycle that many people actually believe is just a good looking motorcycle and maybe ignore for exactly that reason. But let me tell you something. This bike is way more than it might seem at the first look. So where to start? Let me briefly talk you through all of the improvements that have been made since the 2016 model. We're celebrating 10 years of XSR 900 this year, and so why shouldn't we? The first thing I want to talk about is the engine. Now, the engine has always been lovely, yes, but it has been improved massively. We have 5 more horsepower, which on these Swiss roads is not something you can really feel because that peak power is not really something you can get to and on these roads legally, anyways. But there's another way more important thing, and that would be the torque. The torque has been lowered to 7,000 RPM, all the way from 8,500 RPM, and so that is something you really, really feel once you switch from the old bike to the new bike. And so that is one reason that this engine actually feels way different than the same engine, but 10 years old. So good job on that end. I have to say, very well done. It was necessary up to some point. I would say that this makes the engine way more fun to ride, and that's something we're all looking for, right? A fun ride, at least I do. And with that being said, let me talk about another very important thing that changed over the time, and that would be the electronics. 10 years ago, Yamaha implemented a very Spartanic, let's say like that, electronics package on the bike. We have traction control, which you can set in 3 levels. You have 3 riding modes, actually 2 levels of traction control, sorry, 1, 2, and off. So I guess you could say 3, and 3 riding modes, which were A for aggressive, standard for standard, and B for rain mode. And these electronics simply don't work the way they do on this new bike. So if I accelerate with traction control on 1 on the old XSR900, it would continuously cut the power, but not just a bit to keep the front from lifting, because that's what traction control does on the old bike, but continuously and totally. So I would basically accelerate, stop, accelerate, stop, accelerate, stop if you accelerate all the way, and that is actually possible with this new bike. On top of that, the new bike doesn't only have 2 types of electronics, so traction control and riding modes if you set aside the ABS, but it actually has lift control. It has many other things that you can set up the way you want to, and that allows for a very personalized ride. I can set lift control to less, but still keep my traction control active. So in case I slide out the bike, the electronics still help me, but I still can do some slight wheelies, obviously on closed tracks and in a legal way. So that's that. Electronics way better. Engine improved. Torque lower. More peak power. Perfect. Also, another thing, the sound experience. I know sound experience for many people might not be the most important thing, but it has actually been massively improved. I have an Akrapovic exhaust on my old bike, which sounds fair, which sounds good, but obviously you had to pay. On this new bike, you get these sound modules, and the intake is also so perceptible that it's really not necessary, in my opinion. And it's a really engaging experience, acoustic experience. So even from that side, with the stock can, I would say good job on that end. Moving on, let's also talk about something else, which would be the design. Now, design on this bike has changed quite dramatically, I would say. And obviously, everybody has their own opinion about which generation they prefer. I generally do prefer the XSR 900 from 2016 when it comes to the looks, but that's about it. Because everything else, I have to say, has been improved on this bike. Something I did not like that much when it comes to this bike would be the front brake. The front brake's pressing point is a bit hard, and I would wish for a bit more transparency. It's not that you can't brake hard. It's just that you get little feedback from it. And after maybe bringing it to a session on a track, which this bike really is suited for, in my opinion, then the pressing point would maybe become even harder. And so maybe that is something you could update, you could improve if you take the bike on track. For normal road usage, I would say it is more than enough, but still something that could still be improved. The quick shifter works very well. That's also something the old bike did not have. I mean, you could retrofit it, yes, but the new bike comes with a quick shifter, and that's obviously very, very good. The quick shifter is also something that has been around for a while, and so it's a very sophisticated quick shifter. It works very well up and down, and that also allows for more fun on road, and that's always welcome, right? Let us maybe compare this bike for a second to other relevant similar bikes in this category. So first of all, with its sister, the MT09. Now, everybody knows the MT09 is a fun bike, right? It's like a big supermoto, and obviously everybody knows about that, and it has been said for many years, for a decade, that that bike is a big supermoto and designed for fun on roads and so on. But many times people look at this bike and say, okay, now that's the fun bike, the MT09, and this is the good-looking bike, but it's not as fun as the MT09. And I would disagree. I would disagree with that statement, because this bike is way more stable. Maybe it is a bit less agile than the MT09. Maybe it is a bit less childish in a good sense. Childish in a good sense than the MT09, yes. But at the same time, this bike is like almost like a sports bike with a naked bike seating position. Now let me elaborate. So the MT09, you do massive wheelies and everything, all right, but at the same time, it gives you less feedback from the front. There is simply less feedback. It's less stable than this bike, and having this incredible engine in this XSR900 and MT09, I would argue that with this bike you get to have the exact same fun that you can have on the MT09. It's just a question of looks. Which do you prefer? But also maybe seating position, since the MT09 seating position is definitely more naked bike oriented. This is way more sporty than the MT09. This is maybe already a bit more in the direction of the R9, which in the last 10 years obviously hasn't been around. So this was basically what the R9 would have been had it been released many years ago. And you can also see that because there is an XSR900 GP with a very incredibly sporty seating position designed for track use with beautiful fairings also. And so that's why I think that there is truth to that statement. Another, let's say, rival to this bike, apart from its sister, the MT09, is probably the Kawasaki Z900 RS. The Z900 RS is also a bike many people look at and say, wow, okay, it's a good looking bike, but the focus really lies there. And that bike has the engine of the Z900, and that's also a fun engine to have, but it's a bit less brutal, I would say, than this CP3 3-cylinder. And so you really have to say that when compared to the Z900 RS, this bike is simply more brutal, in my opinion. And there might be some people who say, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for, like me. And that's also one reason I bought this bike. And many other people who maybe say, that's not what I'm looking for. And so they maybe choose something else. So my main message in this video, thinking about what my main message really is, would be don't judge a book by its cover. This is a beautiful bike, whatever generation you're looking at, but it is a really, really sporty and really, really torquey bike as well. So you get to have lots of fun. You get to live out your child, I would say. Do stupid stuff, maybe some illegal stuff, but make sure to do that on closed tracks. And you really get to enjoy that on this bike with its CP3 engine. So the heart of this bike really wants you to have fun. And no matter the looks, no matter the MTO, whether you choose the MTO9 or you stay with the XSR900, they are both incredibly fun bikes with this engine. And that's also the reason why I actually bought one of these bikes. When I think back to why I bought this bike, I remember well the reasons I did. I wanted something affordable. I wanted something carefree. I wanted something that wouldn't break down. So something very reliable. And that's why at the end of the day, I was like looking at the market. I don't want a 2-cylinder bike. I don't want a European brand. I want a Japanese bike because I want to make sure that whenever I need to go for a ride, I want to go for a ride, the bike is there waiting for me to turn on the key. And so I said, I need something Japanese. I don't want a single cylinder because there really are not so many single-cylinder Japanese bikes that don't require massive maintenance like a competition supermoto. And so I said, no to that, no to 2-cylinders because I came from a bike with 2-cylinders and I wanted something different. But also no to 4-cylinders because I needed something torquey because the streets at home are very, very tight, very twisty. And so I said, I guess the CP3 is exactly what I'm looking for. And then I bought it. I bought the bike. I bought the bike, and I'm never looking back to any of the older bikes I had because it's simply fantastic. I have so much fun with it on the twistiest roads, and there is simply nothing I would trade this bike for, except for maybe something which is way above this class. But at the same time, I don't want to spend that much money for something I want to have fun with, because at the end of the day, having fun with something means that maybe sometimes something might happen, and if bad comes to worse, then I want to be able to say, okay, well, shit happens, but at least I'm able to buy another bike and look forward. And so even if something happened, I would still be good with my conscience. There was also something that I thought of. And so I guess we've reached the end of this video. I want to quickly summarize. This bike is more than it looks like. Give it a shot, try it out, and be amazed by what this bike has to offer when compared to many other bikes, maybe when compared to an older bike, especially if you compare the new XSR900 to the old XSR900. Thank you for watching, guys. I really appreciated you sticking with me. If you're still around, I would love you to leave a like if you liked the video, leave a comment, tell me all about your XSR900 if you have one, or maybe if you're thinking of buying one, ask me any questions. I went through so many before buying that I'm sure I can answer yours as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you hopefully in the next.